Most people should know me or Masabi as a company that delivers mobile ticketing solutions. We've been very active to start with in the United Kingdom, launching some of the first mobile ticketing applications that allow people to buy something on their mobile phone and then use the mobile phone as a ticket back in 2006. We recognized that we couldn't dominate an entire country and it'd just be ours because this industry abhors a monopoly. So we set open standards, which are then published through RSP and ATOC, so that many different vendors, many different suppliers of back offices, scanning devices, and other things could all come and compete. Because it's only by creating a healthy market we would be likely to change a country and change a country's infrastructure that is as old as large as this. And thankfully, we've now come to the point where that's coming to fruition. That mobile ticketing in the UK now stretches from coast to coast, north to south, and it's becoming not just a sideshow for a few long-distance customers, but becoming a major ticket type in the United Kingdom. Very complex world. We then went and did some work in the USA and launched systems such as for the Boston commuter rail. There, we found that we didn't have the complexity of many, many different overlapping train companies, and within just over a 2-year period, have transitioned more than 50% of their ticket purchases onto mobile. 50% now that doesn't have to be done with a ticket machine, doesn't have to be done in the ticket office, doesn't have to be done by the customer with traditional mediums. But again, we don't think that the whole world is going to be about mobile phones. As we mentioned in the presentation and panel before lunch, not every customer has a bank card, not every customer has a mobile phone. We have to find a way that we can get rid of the old, heavy, expensive, or things that take up space if we're going to increase the number of people coming on public transport, increase the capacity of our stations, and also make it more attractive. So my talk today is not really about mobile. My talk is about how we go beyond mobile to non-mobile, for all those people who choose not to use mobile or anything like that. But I think there is a trend which we're seeing coming out of all of these new digital tickets. And that trend is a trend to bring your own something. Bring your own device, we've heard of in enterprise apps. I think we're going to see bring your own ticket. I'd like to say that over the next 5 to 10 years, the trend is going to be away from the world where a transit agency would have an entire body of staff and activity around issuing ticket media. And I think it's going to be all about how can we move to bring your own ticket? How can we make it so that members of the public can use something in their pocket or already readily available around them to be the ticket? But as we said before in the panel, it's not as simple as to say everyone can use their bank card or use a prepaid bank card. Again, the unbanked and the cash riders are sometimes unbanked and cash riders through choice, sometimes because of lack of ability to organize or to manage a card, or choice that they don't want to. What's very regular is that they don't necessarily keep a lot of balance on it. So what we really see is that all of these things are going to have to be more than just mobile and more than just bank card. Last year, there was a bit of a debacle where, after years and years and years of every new solution being smart card, being a closed smart card system or a proprietary or a MyFare-based smart card system, a major city in the UK, a spokesperson stood up and said, surely smart card is going to be overtaken, surely it's all going to be mobile and contactless. Well, I think mobile and contactless bank cards can do a lot, but not all of it. We do have a load of different media options of things that can be digital tickets or digital tokens. We've got, of course, all our contactless standards, as well as our standard ISO 14443 cards. We've got extra special devices like Apple Pay devices and EMV devices, which have some tricks they can do that a standard legacy smart card can't, of being a payment instrument at the same time. We've got this new technology of BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy. It's just a transmission medium, but it's got a few extra tricks up its sleeve. It can do very fast handshake, work at an extreme range, but also work at short range. And I am going to mention, we do also have barcode. It is an old-fashioned thing. Everyone thinks it's an old-fashioned slow thing. It's no longer slow. It now can be every bit as fast as smart card, but it has some tricks up its sleeve as well. You can have customers print it themselves at home, but you can also have convenience stores print it as part of your receipt. So we can use a standard receipt printer to print a smart ticket. So I can buy a cup of coffee and a bus ticket. I don't need to issue that media as a transit agency anymore. I can have other people issue it. Or even if I do decide that I'm going to issue a bit of this media at the station, I certainly don't need a very expensive device to do so. I can begin to use commercial off-the-shelf devices. But we also have watches that can do the same thing. Some of you might even have used your smartwatch to board an aircraft using a barcode. And we've got, of course, our smartphones, which we're all familiar with in airline and in transit. Some of the downsides. The smart cards, I'm going to come straight out and say it, it can be expensive to issue your own. You end up basically running your own private bank with its own private currency, because you're having to not only issue the special card, but then have top-up machines where you turn local money into transit money, and sometimes back again. It's great, though, because they all generally have strong authentication, some with payment capability. Bluetooth Low Energy, I really think this could be awesome. Because instead of having to give every passenger a toll tag equivalent transponder, they're now carrying in their pocket a 6-radio transponder. Surely we can find one of those radios to mean that we can check them in and out and do BBO and other things. But from our experience so far, it's not quite at the point where it can be your only ticket format. Generally, we say, if you can't tell the difference between technology failure and deliberate passenger misuse, then you can't prosecute it. And any technology that's not prosecutable isn't a ticket yet. But I think it's going to come. Fantastic thing compared to NFC is it can be read at long distance as well as short. And it could bring us to the wonderful world where I can walk onto a subway without even taking the phone out of my pocket. Probably with a really camp walk like that. The barcode really does win by being cheap and ubiquitous. It means that for the unbanked or for areas of society that are further out and lower density and we can't afford to put equipment out, it can be very, very cheap. You can have static and dynamic barcodes that change over time and other bits of anti-fraud technology. But we have a whole bunch of different ticket options now. We've been talking about how do we make it simpler? How do we get sometimes the long-distance travel, which is more like airline, where you buy in advance and get a cheaper airline fare? That's kind of proof of payment or season tickets. We also have things like stored value account, which are simple to understand, like Oyster, where you put some money in and then it comes out. You might even have an equivalent as a post-pay, where you tap around the system, it figures out what the fare should be and charges you. POP, simple, straightforward, maps onto your existing tickets. Very often you have to do that to keep it understandable until you can move people to best value finders, which are better because they simplify. But even the best value finders and postpay don't allow people to travel on the airline-style Amtrak and long-distance Virgin trains and high-speed rail in Europe because the pricing is so different and yield managed. So we kind of need a blend of all these things. And then it comes to retail. We have customers who are coming in from lots of different angles, either buying on web or mobile, possibly going to convenience stores, better if we can reduce the cost of that, might come to an inspector or a guard and have to buy a ticket on the train from a conductor, possibly want to buy from a cheap off-the-shelf vending machine in the high-density stations only. But almost half of people who use public transit, especially bus, they're all the concessions. Half of all of the activity of checking people or trying to prevent fraud is all about concessions. So they're not buying. We just need to know that they really have an entitlement. So we end up with a whole bunch of different products, a whole bunch of different channels that you might use to choose or pay, and then a whole bunch of different tokens. Some of these tokens might be carrying the ticket, some of them might just be account-based tokens. But I believe that once you've got to the point where people can navigate that according to who they are, because they might be somebody with a bank card, and that's really easy to just go through and tap, but they might be someone who needs to know, can I get the advance fare that's only £12 instead of £120, and when is it? Or they might be someone who does not have a bank card, and they need to have a cash way of doing it. But if we can start to think about the fact that it's not one size fits all sorts of different tokens, possibly all sorts of different product types that might make it really easy to understand or easy to access for different customers. But if we can start to think that beyond mobile and beyond our traditional smart card, if we give choice, there's a way that we can make it work for different passenger groups. And what are we solving? Why are we solving it? We were chatting earlier about What are the main issues around what we do? How do we build more capacity? How we build more capacity is probably spending less on the things which don't move people around. If we can spend more on vehicles, more on staff, we're going to move more people around. If we spend less money on the activity of issuing media, either in the stations or on the buses or in our back offices, then we're going to be able to really grow our transit systems. I think it is all bring your own. If we can make bring your own work for all the different customer categories, we can get out of the business of issuing media. So get rid of people waiting in line. This is Grand Central Station at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. An entire wall is staffed ticket tellers. The other wall is ticket machines. Without swinging a wrecking ball, we can't increase the capacity to sell tickets a traditional way here, to issue media. But our cities are getting bigger. Bigger and bigger and bigger. More and more people want to live in the urban space. So how do we keep our cities running, save money per person, get out of the business of issuing media? Just issue tickets, not media. So pretty much get rid of the lines and the space they take up. Get rid of the vending machines. That's $250,000 worth of vending machines for a small subway station. Get rid of that. They cost more than an Italian sports car to service. Get rid of that. Josh Robin, who was working with us on the MBTA's program for commuter rail, he said, the last thing we want is more guys with their butt cracks hanging out all over Massachusetts. We're not in the business of servicing ticket machines. We want to help people travel. Get rid of that. That's everyone getting off the plane at Gatwick. Am I giving them somewhere to sit? Am I giving them somewhere nice, cup of coffee, maybe somewhere to travel? No. Come and see my ticket machine. It's amazing. I traveled to Germany recently with a bunch of transit experts. 5 of us in a German ticket machine. We couldn't buy a ticket. Get rid of that. That is not a good part of a transit journey. Of course, magnetic tickets, moving, rolling rubber, it is a dark art keeping things like this working. That gate there is in Tokyo and again opened up. Boston get a jammed mag ticket once every 4 days in major stations. We don't need moving parts in these. This I've stolen from a smart card company about all the business processes that you have to run your own smart card system. Again, none of this is to do with moving people around in a transit system. It's all, non-essential activity. Get rid of that. Of course, we want to get rid of cash. Big reason to get rid of the cash is when you're issuing media and doing transactions in the train station or on the footplate of a bus, the bus stops being a vehicle with wheels, rolling along, full of a train driver and taking up road and diesel, and it turns into a shop. But it turns into the worst shop in the world, because when the first guy gets on and buys a ticket, they don't get given their product. What they do is they go and sit in a seat and wait for everyone else in that line to buy their product and sit down. Then the bus starts serving you until it gets to the next bus stop, at which point it stops being a bus and starts being a shop again. What a waste. All the time they're waiting in line, they could be buying on their mobile phone. If they've bought and jump on the bus, then the bus can get to the next stop quicker, and the next stop quicker, which means that the journey everybody bought just got faster without anybody paying for turbo-powered buses. But also, it gets all the way around the circuit again and gets to the beginning and then comes by again. So it means we get better frequency of buses. And frequency leads to more public transit use because you don't have to worry about missing a bus and waiting quarter of an hour. So by getting rid of ticket issuing and rid of retail on the bus, we have magicked new buses. That's how you get more capacity. But not everybody can walk onto the bus and tap a payment card or tap a mobile phone. We have the unbanked. But we have people who want to take footfall, who want to take cash, and without giving him any transit-specific equipment, he can make use of a browser or an Android tablet or an Android phone and his existing thermal printer, card reader, and cash handling to sell transit tickets. And instead of you saying, to sell transit tickets, you must sell a minimum of $10,000 a month, or you must pay something towards a maintenance, or as a transit authority, you end up having to give and maintain that equipment. It's all equipment he already has. So there's a way of us saying we can get tokens, whether it's payment tokens, payment cards, pieces of paper, pieces of mobile phones, all of these things which are bring your own, which means that you can clear out all of that equipment, make it either a space to move people in and out of the cities so that we can expand our cities, or make it so that you've got space for another cafe or a pub or something that brings in revenue to the transit authority but also makes it feel safer. St. Pancras Station that I showed before lunch is now an A1 category retail facility, which means the rent you get from each shop is very high, but also they redecorate those shops every year and a half, 2 years. The lighting is very bright, it's very clean, because it feels safer. It means as a lone traveler, even late at night, there are people there. It's much better than a station full of robot vending, or even a small cafe. It can be a lot better. I think one of the ways we get there is not this horror that we're going to have Frankenstein's gates with millions of things attached to them. It is possible to go for a media-agnostic approach to your inspection and validation. One reader, multiple tickets. So if you have a standard mobile phone, an Android like this, it can read smart cards, NFC, Bluetooth, barcodes. If you fit a reader like some of the readers ourselves and some of the other providers outside are showing, they do EMV, they do Bluetooth, they do paper, they do mobile, they do legacy smart cards as well, everything in one reader. Our real plea is, if we want to all move to bring your own ticket, we've got to move to media-agnostic readers. It's not about changing it every few years. It's if you put in a reader with Bluetooth, EMV, contactless, bank cards, ability to read ID cards, ability to read any standard card that you can then attach tokens to, whether it's a driver's license or your entry card for your employer, these readers can read them all, and you can start to go account-based or pre-buy, all in the same thing. I'm not going to talk any more about the UK. The main thing is, I do think 5 to 10 years, we can really move to bring your own ticket, bring your own device. We can start to move away from the world of issuing media. I don't think it's a useful part of transit. I think by doing so, we can also bring in a whole bunch of new travel experiences to the public. No queuing to buy tickets, even for the unbanked. I think that will yield more money, more space to go into vehicles and more capacity. I think all of that's a good thing if we can do it for the industry. You don't have to do it with Masabi, but we'd love to help you. You can do it with other vendors. But I really think bring your own device is it. Thank you very much.